the engagement do's and don'ts. And I'm so excited to have some amazing women and newlyweds to help and share the information that they would have had. Because I'm technically not a newlywed. I've been married 5 years now, and I got married before the pandemic. So I'm sure so many things have changed since then. But for those of you who may not know me in the her season space, I'm more so in the wife her. I'm Christina Campbell Smith, and I am the new wives lead at wife her, but also head of New Providence and Grand Bahama operations. But I also enjoy all things, the transition seasons with wives to fiancés to wives and everything newlywed. So I'm always open to assisting with her season. So we're gonna just jump right on into it so we can get the most out of this evening. So ladies, I would just say your names, but I want each of you just to introduce yourselves briefly. Just say your name, when you got married, and where, because I know some people want to know, okay, what's the location so they could figure out the places that you're talking about, if there's somewhere where they may be interested in using for their venue. So we're gonna start with the first name on my screen, which is Natalie.
Hello, ladies, wives to be, husbands to be, whoever's listening in. Good night. And hello, my name is Natalie Serpico, formerly Brown. I got married at a place called Galuppi's right here in Pompano Beach. And what was the last question?
When you got married.
When? So that was last year. December was the grand celebration, but my husband and I did the courthouse wedding back in July. A little more about that later on.
Okay, so congratulations, Natalie. And next we have
Thank
Simone.
you.
Hi, I'm so happy there's someone else that also had a courthouse civil ceremony because we did too. So, my name is Simone San Quentin. I live in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada. I did my civil ceremony in May of last year, but my official wedding was in Nassau at St. Barnabas Anglican Church, my childhood church and current church. And my wedding was August 2024.
Congratulations.
Thank
And
you.
last but not least, Kendra.
Hi, my name is Kendra Simonet, and I got married October 11th, 2024. My wedding was at All Saints Church, right in Nassau, Bahamas.
Perfect. Well, thank you, ladies, and we're honored to have you with us this evening. So we're just gonna jump into it because I'm sure no matter how many conversations you have with people, so everybody always has like a different opinion about how you should do it, like when you should do it. Everybody wants to have their opinion. And so for me, I want to just ask, like, just straight off the bat, because I know it was something for me, which was like a big contention, was how did you manage, who was able to have a say or like input or influence um the ceremony that you had? I know Natalie and Simone, y'all had like the courthouse and so some parents like my mother would have never allowed it.
Oh,
But
she didn't want it.
Oh, no.
and so if you could just like talk us through, how did you and your husband come to that decision and, really like standing your ground. I know sometimes us as wives, we want to appease our parents, even like the husbands, they want to appease our parents. And so we tend to kind of bend on something that we know that we don't want to appease them. But how would you encourage fiancés or future wives, like how to stand their ground when picking like the type of ceremony that they want to have? So we'll
Who
start
wants
with
to go first?
Simone.
Oh, okay. For us, it was kind of a split decision because we initially did not want to go that route either. It was just the Nassau wedding, and that was it until we looked. Like, I had another friend that actually got married in November the year prior, and my husband is from Antigua, which is another Caribbean island. Her husband was also from there, so I leaned on her for a lot of support. And in so I learned that you had to go to Nassau. I think it was 2 or 3 months ahead of time. If your partner was not Bahamian, do an interview, and then apply for your marriage license. So with all of that information and knowing that it's about $600, $700 per ticket just to fly home, we would have to fly him about 2 to 3 times for the wedding. That just wasn't feasible. So that is how we came to the decision of doing the civil ceremony. My mom was like, don't tell anyone, it's gonna ruin the big day. Like, people will not be as excited. So we did keep it under wraps. We just revealed it this February to family and friends, and they took it very well. I was afraid that people would be a bit, why didn't you tell us before? But it was a nice decision, and that's how we came up with it. For any couple that's considering it and worried about friends or family's opinions, I would say definitely consult your partner, do what is best for both of you, and move forward as a unit, because in marriage, that is how you should approach every situation. It's you and your partner first, everyone else is secondary.
Thanks. Natalie?
Yes. So for me, during the dating and courting season, my husband and I, marriage eventually comes up and you start to talk about the date, the date that you'd like to have the ceremony. And so for us, that date would have been summer of this year. As we got closer together and certain things started to manifest itself, we had a lady approach us in the mall. We were out on a date and basically didn't know her from a can of paint, just blurted out, you guys need to start walking in your purpose together. And just varying things started to happen, dreams, confirmations, just different things started to transpire, which led to us actually moving the date up. At the time, my husband was living in Miami, about an hour away from where we're staying now. And so once we decided that it was something we wanted to do, we decided to kind of expedite the process. And we know we needed to do things the right way, no shacking up, right? And so we decided to have a civil ceremony between the two of us with close family members. And then a few months after that, we would have the grand celebration before family, friends, and whatnot. And so, like Simone said, you have to know, obviously you have to be led and you have to have those signs. Community is very important. During the time I was making my decision, I heavily relied on not just my prayer life, but also the people that surrounded me. And I have a small inner circle, which consists of my mom, my sister. I have a few of them on the line, and I'm so grateful for their support. And so you're leaning on people and you're gleaning from them. And it's a decision that you don't want to take lightly. And so I leaned on the women in my circle. And like I said, I got that confirmation from those women. And so we were able to move forward with confidence. So that's what we did.
I love that. Kendra, what about you and your husband? How were y'all able to navigate and stand your ground picking like what it is that y'all wanted the date to look like?
Well, we both wanted a church wedding. So it was kind of a tradition that, both our parents, they both spoke about, but we also prayed about it also. Well, for me, I would have chosen a beach wedding because that's my favorite place. But we both agreed on the church. So in terms of talking about it, we talked about that pretty early in dating and what we would want for the community in terms of people even we wanted to be there. That was talked about early, very early. So that's about it in terms of having a church wedding. So yeah.
Right, thank you. I want to pivot because I noticed Simone, you had mentioned your husband's from Antigua.
Yes.
So I want y'all to go back and I want each of you to tell me, how did y'all meet y'all spouses?
I was
So
like, she missed that question.
I was like, Antigua. Okay, but so Kendra, since you were the last to speak, and I want you to go first. Let us know, just a quick brief
Ooh.
how you and your husband met, and yeah, you gotta let the girls know.
So me and my husband, I actually met him at his wife's free pass. So I had a mutual friend we both have a mutual friend, and they work together. And because we were friends, they talked on the phone, and so I knew of him. And so when his wife had passed, she was like, "I go into this repast. You won't go with me?" And I was like, "Girl, I don't want to go to no repast." So I ended up going with her, and I actually met him at his wife repast. So the following day, he was actually laying his wife to rest. And so our friendship became, we had friendship started in January of the following year. We rekindled, and we started talking in terms of, I see you before, that kind of way. So yeah.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
No, but y'all are now y'all walk down the aisle, y'all made official. I love that.
Yeah. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. Simone, please let us know how you and your husband met.
So he came here in 2013 and I came in 2014. We both went to different schools. However, they had a Caribbean party. It was called Back to School Social Meetup. So I went with my friends and he walked in. I saw him, he saw me, we locked eyes. And some people don't believe in love at first sight, but there was an attraction. And I told my friend, I'll dance with him before the end of the night. And he also told his friends the same thing, but I didn't know that at the time. And that's how we met. We danced. The party got shut down. And his side of the story is that I chased him and gave him my number. I don't like to recall that part, but I did. I told my friend, I was like, I really liked his energy, was a good connection. Should I talk to him? And she said, yeah. So he was leaving in a cab. I was leaving in another cab. I said, let me just see where this goes, give him my number. And we spoke. And yeah, we're happily married today.
I love that. Don't worry, me and my husband have the same argument when it comes to who gave whose number first, who was trying to pursue who first. So it's
Always.
but that
Listen,
is it. You made it down the aisle. Y'all are locked in. I love it.
Yeah.
So Natalie, please let us know how you and your husband met.
My husband and I met in, and for me, an unconventional way, but it's very common today given the climate we're in. So we met on Facebook dating, actually, which is a thing. I know a lot of people don't even know about that widget on Facebook, but yes, signed up, created an account, and we met through the platform. But I gotta say, prior to meeting my husband, I had went on another date with a gentleman, having met him on Facebook as well. And the date was one of the most awful dates I've ever went on. It was horrible, ladies. It was so horrible that when I came home after the date, I decided to just deactivate my account, hide under the covers, like nobody's seeing me no more. That's it. That's it. I'm done. Dating is done, right? Um, and then I remember the days that ensued, the Holy Spirit talking to me very gently, saying to get back out there. And in my mind, I was like, God, you encouraging this? Like, how, right? Um, and so I decided to create another profile, went through the motions, and I was like, I'm just going to create an account. Whatever happens, it happens. I'm not really invested. As a matter of fact, I wanted to utilize the year to really work on me, continue to work through certain traumas in my life. I was in therapy at the time. And so really that was my focus, truly. Made the account. Long story short, I met my husband. Um, took me on a date, and the rest is history, as they say.
Glad to hear that. But even more so, you speaking to, you took the time for yourself to go in therapy and heal and become like the whole woman. Like I would tell people, like, your singleness is not a wasted season. Your singleness is the time when God is like transforming you into the woman, the wife, the mother that he has for you to be. And so to take that time to heal so that your spouse gets the full version of who you are, not like a broken or from
Absolutely.
like past relationship traumatized version of yourself, so you could show up fully. So I'm glad that you did that, and God still was working while you couldn't see, but he was still working while you
Absolutely.
were
Yes.
waiting. So Now we're gonna pivot back to the actual planning, and we're gonna hit with like the most important thing, which is budgeting. Because I don't care. I think some people make a budget. I know some of my friends have stuck to it, some that have exceeded it, some that were just like, there's too many hands involved. This parent is giving money, this one's giving money, this one wants this one wants that. So, how did you ladies, did you and your spouse set a budget prior to, or were there things that you know that you weren't gonna negotiate on? Like these are like had like these were things that needed to be there. These were things that y'all could have, spent less money on. How did you work around a budget? And like, did you set one and did you stick to it? So Kendra, you were on my screen right now, so I want you to answer that first.
We definitely set a budget because we're a blended family. So of course he's previously married. I did mention before, but I was previously married also. I was going through a divorce actually when I met him. So we both healed. Um, it's a crazy story. His wife actually told him she wanted him to wait 2 years before he dated. And he actually stuck to that. So that standed out for me. So we did budget because we were bringing a family together. We knew we needed to add on. So he has a home, and so we needed to add on to bring the family together. So once we put that to the forefront, we said, okay, this is what we're gonna do, and this is what we're gonna do for the wedding. And so once we put those figures together, we then went and see, okay, so what we do in the church. Let's see what the church saying. Some churches they charge, some didn't charge. Well, God was good to us. We didn't pay anything. I went to my awesome friend Brother Richard Wood, and he was like, "You getting married? Let's go. Let's come." And we didn't have to pay for the church, so he's like, "You get your church, set your date, and then y'all could start y'all planning." And so with planning and budgeting, we didn't want a big wedding. So it was basically 50 persons, mommy side, 50 persons on his mommy side, and we stuck to that. We didn't go past that. In terms of budgeting, in terms of what the, I guess, what finances, in terms of like who was the, let me see how I should put this. Like the big decorations and stuff, we didn't do that. We didn't do that. My mom was the decorator. My mom was the planner. She loved parties. So my mommy basically did everything for me. So I was happy for that in terms of budgeting. I didn't go into the lavish wedding planning. We didn't do that. It was very small. It was simple and it was unique because my mom did everything.
Listen, I had a small wedding as well. Me and my husband, we decided early on if I had a friend who didn't know who he was and didn't know who I was marrying, they couldn't come. And if he had a friend who didn't know who I was, they couldn't, like we kept it very small, very intimate, very family oriented. And so
But I think a lot of people don't know weddings through the week is cheaper than the weekend.
it is
So we had our wedding was on a Friday.
smart.
Yes,
Smart.
it was on a Friday. So if you want to plan before anything Monday to Friday, it's good.
So there you go, ladies. Plan through the week. And apparently I heard morning weddings are cheaper than afternoon and
Yeah,
evening weddings. So there
they
you
are.
go. Those of y'all who are looking to plan. All right, Simone, you are next. How did budgeting go for you and your husband?
Well, my husband was just a backseat driver, backseat passenger, I would say, because he has never attended a wedding prior to our wedding. So he was oblivious to everything that was going on. He didn't know costs. And then not being from Nassau, in Antigua they use EC currency, so he didn't know anything. But thankfully I'm very type A. I'm very organized. I actually planned our entire wedding myself. So for me, budget was really important. So the first thing that I did was I Googled the average cost of weddings, and I think it's around 30 to $35,000 USD or Bahamian dollars. So equivalent that would be around maybe 45,000 Canadian. I knew that I did not want to go in debt for our wedding. And thankfully, my parents did have a budget set aside, and they graciously provided funds for our reception venue, which turned out to be our biggest expense. I'm comfortable sharing numbers, so I won't shy away from that. Our reception venue, I think, was around $12,000, inclusive of our cocktail hour portion that we added on. So that was a huge weight lifted off of our shoulders in terms of that expense. So we're really grateful to my parents for that. But I knew that I wanted to stick to a small budget of $20,000, which I know that sounds like a lot, but in comparison to the cost of a wedding in this day is very, very expensive. To me, that was feasible, and that's a number that we spoke on that we could comfortably afford. I think my wedding ended up being around 22 to 23,000. So we went slightly over the budget. However, if I was to total the actual cost, because we did get steep discounts on almost every service that we had, I would say it did hit around the average mark of 30 to 35,000.
Right. I love that. Like I saw someone made a note about like, parents helping and assisting. That was
Yeah.
something that was beneficial for my husband and I, even though like two of us, we carried the brunt of it just because I was the type of person I was like, hey, if you don't put no money in, you don't have a say. And so we were like very stuck on that. And so I was like,
Oh, I didn't actually state my number. Sorry. Our guest amount was actually 150 people. So we had quite a bigger wedding because I have a lot of people in my family. So that definitely hiked the numbers up. But I did want to give not really a tip, but like social media is a highlight reel. I will say I worked two jobs during this time, Monday through Thursday on my second job. I would go to work from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. every week to make up funds for my wedding. So I will say, don't judge what you see online. Do what is feasible for you. I knew the type of wedding that I wanted. And like I said, I knew it. I didn't want to go in debt for that. So I took the sacrifice on taking on extra because I know what I wanted. My husband was like, you could do your thing, do whatever. And so I reached out to a former employer, asked them if I can come back on part-time, and they graciously did allow me to. So that's how I partially made up most of the funds for my wedding. I did want to put that out there because I think that is important to note. A lot of people look at social media and they see the lavish weddings online and they think like, oh, if I don't have this wedding, then I'm not good, or I'm not deserving, or however their mind may be going. I want you to know that whatever your budget is, whatever is feasible for you is perfectly fine as long as you, your husband, and the Lord are in agreement. That is all that matters.
no, I love that. And yes, favorite. I think when you were planning a wedding and like you said, you were doing it with your partner, you're doing it with God, like so many doors and so many things just open to you. Like for me, I had gotten promoted like the December, so I got married in February, right before like a month before the pandemic. And but I got promoted like that December, but like the pay increase wouldn't have hit until after like March or April, and my boss was like just so graciously she gave me like my pay increase prior to like, and that was like just the last bit of funds that we needed to finish off certain things. And so like you said, like plan the wedding within your budget to what it is that you want, and don't worry about what you see like you say on the highlight reels, because you would be amazed how many people have these amazing weddings yet they are still paying off debt years later to have all the glitz and the glam, and like you said, like the most important thing is the actual union between you and your spouse. So thank you for your transparency with that. So Natalie, what about you? How is budgeting for you and your husband?
So Simone is speaking my love language. She brought the numbers, which is, I'm no stranger to numbers. I'm actually in the accounting and finance field. And so budget is not uncommon, right? Um, so you have this idea in your head of the kind of wedding you want. My husband and I, we both were previously married. And so you're young, you don't got no money, you don't have a dollar to do anything, right? And so, you have the small intimate wedding and, you have that. And then now at this season of life, at this stage of life where we're much more mature and we're able to do certain things, we wanted a more respectable, if I could use that word, wedding. And so for us, the number was 75, which was around median, right? We wanted to keep it at that because we wanted it to be intimate and exclusive to the people that were in our circle. To Simone's point earlier, I think a lot of times the budget grows in terms of guest count because we want to include everybody. Granted, we haven't spoken to these people in years. You may have grown up with them, but are they really, do they even know who you are as an individual at this stage? And so I think we do that, and before you know it, the budget balloons, right? So I think the first step for couples, which is a natural step, is to really have an idea of what you want your wedding to look like. So for us, small, medium size, 75 guests was doable. And then next we looked at, okay, what can we contribute as a couple? So we had that dollar figure of what we would like to come out of our personal budget. So we had three main areas that we used in terms of finances and being able to afford certain things. So we had our personal funds as the couple. We had the contribution of our parents, and we also used crowdfunding, which is you're garnering funds from loved ones and people that want to invest in the wedding in a particular way. And so Simone talked about, the industry average just being so different than what it was prior. And if the average 2 to 3 years ago, up until now is upwards to 35,000, for us, I managed to keep the budget around 30 to 40% under. So I'm happy about that. I feel proud to know that I could use my skills, my professional skills to make this thing happen. One thing I do want to share and highlight is that if you are somebody like who's a type A like Simone, or if you are in the finance world, use don't shy away from the opportunity to plan your wedding. I know for some people, they don't want to get into all of that. They want to really enjoy the season, and that's perfectly fine. But for me, once I started to do it, I realized, one, I had a natural acumen for it because this is what I do on a daily basis, right? And two, it opened up another layer of, well, I actually like this. Maybe I can see myself doing this as a side thing. Maybe this is one of my gifting areas. So if I could add just a word of advice to anyone that may be listening and you probably can't afford a wedding planner, and you just want to venture out and see what it means, go for it. I highly recommend it. Again, it brought out strengths that I didn't even know was there. Negotiation skills. You're seeing what's commonplace in the industry. And honestly, ladies, I had a whole lot of fun doing it. So don't shy away from it. Budget is key. Have the vision in mind, first off. Do your research, look at industry standards, negotiate at every stage, and try to match it as closely to what you see overall.
That's good. Thank you so much for that, Natalie. But I also just want to add to that, guys, closed mouths don't get fed. You'd be amazed how many of your family members or friends want to support you on that day, pour into you on that day, and will gift you certain things. So for me, I'm not much of a sweets person, so I could me nor my husband, so we could have been fine without a cake or like a baked cake. But my aunt, she loves sweets, she loves cake. So she was like, you know what, I want to gift this to, even though if it would just been for her to eat that cake all by herself. But uh, just talking about certain things, we had people gift us with things, and so like Natalie said, don't, I guess, cut down on certain things that you think you cannot afford. Like, enjoy the time in planning the wedding. And there are certain things you could still have the same nice feel, the nice wedding at different price ranges. You can still have the day of your dreams. So, like she said, enjoy it, enjoy it, enjoy it. Find out new things about yourself. I would say I was very hands-on with my planning as well. Although I had the lovely Zemi as my wedding planner and coordinator, she more came on the day of. And so sometimes you just need a day of coordinator, not someone throughout the entire planning process if you want to be that involved in it. So also some of these places, even when you go to buy a dress, when you go to um, look for certain things, it's not that difficult to negotiate. Some of these places will negotiate with you. They will ask you, hey, what's your budget? What are you looking for? But they won't, I will tell you, for me, they didn't come out straight out and ask that. We had to, be more forthright with, hey, this is the budget that we have. Is there anything that you could do for us within this budget? And so Natalie, I know you'd mentioned like you were in like the finance space, but what is some terminology that you would have used to help negotiate or to go about like raising funds for your wedding day?
Yes. So terminology, I don't know if I use specific terminology, but there is a way that you conduct yourself whenever you're going out into the marketplace. You mentioned it already, Christina, which is being upfront and forthcoming about where you're at. So that means if I have a budget of, I don't know, let's say $5,000 for my wedding dress. I'm trying on these dresses and I'm in conversation. And this is something that you would go into the shop or the boutique or wherever have you, with the mindset that this is my budget. Let's see where these people can meet me at. So you're trying on the dresses, you're having the conversations beforehand, and they're trying to upsell you something else. Beautiful dress, mind you. Fit is probably on point. You love it. But also, too, you know that you have a designated threshold for your dress. And if you can stick to it, then that's going to cut into other areas. So for me, I think you really need to be cognizant of the areas that you want to put more emphasis on as opposed to others, right? So if the dress is important to you, then splurge, okay, a little bit. If it's not, be mindful that there are other areas that you may want to pump those funds into. So going back to negotiation, you have to be able to keep the set amount in mind, and realize that there's a price to everything. That individual that you're speaking to, they may be able to meet you halfway, especially if they know that they're losing the sale, right? They may count and say, okay, well, we can give it to you for this, but if you give us a little bit more, maybe we can add on the veil, things like that. You just have to be mindful of those areas.
If I can add to that, my husband is in the finance space as well. And he is really big on budgeting. He got me into actually tracking. So we track our expenses, our monthly expenses, and that got me into actually setting up a tracker for our wedding. So prior to even reaching out to vendors and getting pricings, I made a list of dress, veil, shoes, everything, and what my max amount would be to spend in those categories, adding up to what I wanted my total budget to be for the wedding, and areas where I would budge or be comfortable going over, and how much I'd be comfortable going over by. So for every item that I purchased, I put it into that list, and that kept track. I had Canadian currency and USD currency, so I kept track of both, and that helped us to stay on budget and stay on par. Something I will add in terms of negotiating, like I said, I live in Canada. When I was calling, I was like, hey, I'm a Bahamian. Can I get the local rate? Especially for like our hotel. Like if you don't ask, you don't know. There are local rates for almost everything. And I was able to get discounts on nearly every service, some just by favor, others just by asking. If you don't ask, like you said, you won't receive. Sometimes they will give me their budget, and I just said, hey, this is my amount. This is what I can put forward. Is this something that you can work with? And a lot of times they can say, yes, I just will take off this, or I won't be able to do that. And if that is something that you're comfortable with and you're okay with, that is a great way to add that in terms of like negotiating.
I would agree with that in terms of like I had this thing that I used to say, when I was wedding planning, that vendors when they have a wedding, they go ching ching ching
Oh,
ching.
yes. Oh, yes.
It goes ching ching. And so in terms of when you say, okay, I'm having a wedding, the like all the money start going like this, like they start flowing. And so in terms of budgeting and looking for wedding dress, I think I was more frustrated looking for a wedding dress in Nassau than anything. So people are surprised. I got my wedding dress off Amazon.
Mm.
And when I got my wedding dress, I paid $150 for my wedding dress. And it came perfect. I didn't have to do no alterations. I didn't have to do anything for it. Actually, the whole bridal party, including the groom, including the flower girl, the ring bearer, everything came off of Amazon. And everybody suit and dress fit them. No alterations. So I was blessed with that. Now, I ain't gonna say, don't try it, but I've never ordered a dress off Amazon, and that was the first dress I ordered, and it actually fit. And I got 2 dresses. So in terms of budgeting, like I said, my mommy is a party. She loves parties. So I didn't want to have a reception. And she was like, you're going to have a reception. So that's how come I get 2 dresses. So I changed into a more formal dress at the reception. And God was good because I was stressed right out trying to say, oh God, I'm getting this dress from Amazon. And it's like, I was like praying, like, oh my God, I hope this dress fit. And when it came and it fit, I was like, hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. So you have to be wise in terms of even if you go into the wedding shows and you're looking at these dresses and you're looking at the tables and you're looking at the makeup, the photographer, everything is like glamorous, but you have to be wise in looking what's gonna happen after the wedding. You know,
Yeah.
what's gonna happen after you don't want to put yourself in debt to be paying for a wedding in 5 years. You really don't. So you really have to sit down. That'll be one of the things that I would say. I guess these are conversations we really don't have before the engagement. These conversations need to have when you're dating. Like what do you want future wise in terms of these things? The hard conversations in terms of budgeting, not even only for a wedding, for just life itself in budgeting. So I would suggest, in that kind of environment with budgeting, you gotta talk about finances.
Oh, thank you so much, ladies, on all of your perspectives when it comes to budgeting. So, like you said, stay within your budget. Don't be ashamed of your budget. Open your mouth, ask the questions. These vendors are looking to work with you, and if they don't, I promise y'all there are a dime a dozen wherever you are located that will meet you where you are and work with you. And also, like you said, you try unconventional things. Like you said, Kendra got a dress off Amazon. I want y'all to know my reception dress, I think was from Fashion Nova. Like,
See?
and I'm not ashamed to say it. Like,
I know it.
it looked nice. It matched with the
Mhm.
lacy actual first gown that I had. Like, you don't have to go out of your way. But that also leads to the next question when it comes to what were some of the non-negotiables that y'all were not willing to bend on. So for me, I could have not had not a one flower in the church because I just wanted, so we had a cocktail reception. That for me, I just wanted a celebration because that's what I saw this day as a celebration, two families coming together, and both me and my husband, we know how to throw a good party. And so that was where I wanted to pump most of our finances. Like I wasn't skimping on a band, I wasn't skipping on the food. decorations, I think we had like the minimal amount of flowers. Like, and we got married the week before Valentine's Day, so I knew flowers were going to be through the roof. So we picked white flowers, baby's breath, like all of like the cost-effective flowers the week before Valentine's Day, because I was like, decor was not where I was going to spend my money. Like, I wanted to spend it on the experience. So, can y'all tell me what were some things that you would have bent on, and then some things that you refused to bend the budget for? So we'll start with Natalie.
Yes. I would like to say that in terms of non-negotiables, when it got down to it, and when I look back on things, most things were negotiable, and I'll tell you why. Um, Keeping up with the Joneses is a term we heard a lot growing up, right? And I think that we still do it in a lot of ways. And so, you know, what I realized in planning my wedding was that, things come up and you have to pivot. Um, when we talk about non-negotiables, we start to get this air of Bridezilla, right? Bridezilla starts to come out. I've got to have this way. It needs to be done that way. And I think throughout the process, the Holy Spirit has really been kind to show me certain areas where I might have had the attitude that, no, I'm not budging here. Then he would remind me, well, maybe you need to look at it this way. For example, the idea of hair from my ladies was, I like the sleek ponytail look, right? That's my go-to every day. You all see my hair in a pony right now. I'm a bun girl, right? And I just liked the look. Now, from a realistic standpoint, and my bridal party consisted of family members. Joanna, she's on the call right now. You all know she has a shortcut, right? And so when you start to look at things from a realistic standpoint, you really want to put yourself, even as the bride, you want to put yourself in the shoe of your bridal party. And so for her, I started to have conversations. Would you be comfortable with this? Like, are you willing to wear a weave, right? I mean, do I want to put my people, the people that we're supposed to love and care for, right? Do we want to put them in unnecessary and undue expense? And so for me, as I went through the process, there were many things that I wanted, that I realized in the end, I had to kind of scale back, and really look at it from a human standpoint, because these are relationships that you want to keep even after the wedding is done. You want to make sure that you're covering your people and that you are extending grace to them as well, because you don't know their situation. You don't know what their pockets are like. You don't know the sacrifices that need to be made just to accommodate you on your day. And there were sacrifices made. We had people traveling in, people coming from back home in Bahamas, Texas, different areas. And so even in that regard, initially my husband and I wanted to have our wedding back home in the Bahamas, but it came down to us having consideration for the people that we love and care for. And so my non-negotiables actually became negotiable.
No, thank you for that. Kendra, what about you? What were some things that you, looking back now, that you either would have cut costs on, or some things that you just were standing 10 toes down on for your day?
Well, my negotiable was pictures. I love pictures. So I was more so spending more money on that than anything. So for the pictures, and the they was about, I picked the budget at, I still was still at a budget, whereas I could have not over spent, but it was still where I was able to get enough pictures and memories that will be okay. So for pictures, I spent about $2,000, and that was within, the budget. Well, because when you look at the photographers and what they're going to give you, I just went with the best one. And so that was Gary F. Francis. So I just stuck with him, and we had, back and forth conversations and emails. And so I just chose him. In terms of what I would have not. I mean, for me, like I said, my wedding was simple. I didn't have the headache in terms of looking for this, looking for that. My mom did most of that. And I appreciate her for that. Like in terms of the flowers, she was in Home Fabrics video calling me, you like this color? This the color here what you want? So, and so my mommy had tool from her wedding 15 years ago. I think it was almost 20 years ago. So she was the tool. So those kind of stuff, tool and flowers, and that was it. Like, my mommy decorated everything in the church, it was her. So basically, the only thing we did was and putting everything together was her. So, but I didn't have the negotiation. She was like, "I gonna get this." All I know, she was just doing what she had to do. So, yeah. And my daughter did the programs. She's on. I just showed her what I wanted, and she did the program. She did the banner. So, in terms of budgeting, I printed my own programs that worked. So, in terms of cutting costs and those things, I was able to do that. So, if you have someone who is a family member who, is good at graphics, ask and you shall receive.
You, Simone, what about you? What are some areas that maybe you would have cut costs and why, or like what were like some non-negotiables for you?
So for me, appearance, in terms of like my hair, my makeup, my dress, those are definitely non-negotiables for me. I had a vision board, so I knew exactly what I wanted, and I actually got the exact dress from my vision board. My budget was 2000 and my dress was $1,999.
Perfect.
Numbers.
And it was slightly more with taxes, but like I said, there's always that room for what more you would spend with less. But so yeah, I will definitely say, and I would recommend this as well. Areas such as photography, your makeup, your hair, like those are moments and pieces that are timeless. You will have those memories and those photos for life. I was thankful enough to be able to have a cousin that's a videographer. So I was able to capture those moments. We have a wedding video as well as a short clip film of our wedding. So I was happy for that. Um, However, I did not choose my photographer. It was more so a package deal. So if I could go back and splurge a little more, I probably would look more into my own photographer, do a little more research. And there was nothing wrong with the photographer that I had. However, it just wasn't someone that I chose myself. Um, and in terms of areas where I think you could cut back on, I would say programs. So I did everything digital. Like I said, I planned my entire wedding. So I did the graphic designs for everything. My background is in public relations and marketing. So I kind of have a knack for that. So I did everything digital. The only thing that I didn't do was my wedding programs for the day of and my wedding menus. I think those were the only two things. Oh, and some invites because we wanted some of our bridal party and family members to have keepsakes. Thankfully, this was a gifted service to me by a lovely friend, so I didn't have to pay for it. However, I know that printing can be extremely expensive. So I would say that is the area you could cut costs in because at the end of the day, I probably can count maybe 10 people that still have our wedding program to this day. People either will just toss it to the side or throw it away. It's more like wasted money. And where we're in such a modern day and time, you can just use QR codes. You can send out digital wedding planning programs. It's just so much more cost effective ways of doing things. So that's definitely one area that I would say that I would be more mindful of and cutting corners in.
Hey, thank you, thank you. But you did make a good point there where we are in such a tech and digital age where I don't even think people send out official invitations anymore. Everything is, like a
Everything I did was digital.
invite, a paper invite, especially if you're having like a destination wedding. So for me, I would have loved to do digital, but I let my mommy run wild with that. So we did get like hard invitations, but they
I
did
will
make
say
a
it
nice
is good.
keepsake.
It
It
is
got
good
you
to print off some. Even if you do
exactly.
just a dozen, it's
Print off
good.
some. You don't need all, but don't be afraid
More so the
to.
old fashioned, Grammys and stuff, you give those,
Yeah.
So
to
you keep it.
everybody in the 20s and 30s. Send
True.
that.
So feel free, ladies, to
Yes.
Yeah.
digitize it because at the end of the day, if nobody's giving you money to print these things on expensive paper, don't feel bad. So I have enough for like your immediate family, like you say, the ones who want to keep the keepsakes, because like I collected all of my friends' wedding invitations just because it's a nice keepsake. So have something for your own memories, but don't feel pressured to have to buy one for every single person
Fun.
that you are
Mhm.
inviting.
Mhm.
So we want to pivot because Simone, you had mentioned when you said you had gotten some of the printed ones for your bridal party. So we're getting into the wedding planning now. And bridal party is always like a spot. Like I don't know if it's a good spot or a bad spot because I know of some people they stood in weddings and then when it came time for their wedding, they didn't want the person whose wedding they stood in prior to stand in or it was just like some confusion. Then you had people who stood in weddings they don't speak no more. They're not friends. So, ladies, how did you go about picking your bridal party, or even if you had one, how many people did you have? How did you go about picking it? I had mine small. Mine was my sister, my best friend, and my two cousins because I knew my mom was gonna tussle with me a lot, and I needed people who I know were not afraid to stand there, stand the ground with me for what it is that I wanted against my mom, and I didn't want any of my friends to have to take any strays from my mom. So I kept it in the family. My husband the same with his three brothers, and he picked two additional close friends of ours. So Kendra, how did you pick if did you have a bridal party and how many people was it and how did you go about picking your bridal party?
Um, Everybody in the bridal party were our kids except for his best man.
Wow.
Okay.
So my maid of honor was my lovely daughter Kendria, who's on the call. Um, my junior flower girls was my daughter Kaylee and his daughter Jolisha. The ring bearer, no, the flower girl was Josiah, and the ring bearer was my nephew. My son was the usher. My godchild was the next usher, and that's it.
Family.
It was very small.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Hmm.
Hey, Natalie, what about you?
So my bridal party consisted of family members as well. So we have my son who was the groomsman, the best man, my husband's best friend. I had my maid of honor, Miss Spencer, who's on the call, and I had another one of my lovely sisters who served as bridesmaid. In addition to that, I had my niece and nephew who acted as they threw the flowers, obviously. They were also instrumental in reading the scripture. My dad did the prayer, and so you get the trend, right? What I tried to do was incorporate as much with my family members as possible because for me, those are the moments that matter. I especially wanted my kids to be a part of it because I wanted them to recognize that marriage is a good thing. And they're not naive. Mom has been married before, right? But you want them to understand that marriage is a covenant. It's a good thing. It's okay to start over. So I really wanted them to share in the day. And I also did not, once again, want to put undue pressure on people that did not have the budget or that did not have the funds to be able to participate in a particular way. I initially had one of my friends from back home standing in as well, but circumstances being what they were, she was not able to participate, which was fine. Um, I totally understood. And for me, I had the support system of sisters to be able to step in when needed. And that's just what one of my sisters did. She was able to step in and fill in the gaps. And I was just so grateful to help everybody apart.
Simone, what about you?
So for me, initially I was just going to do family. However, I didn't want to be I wouldn't say selfish, but I had their friends that I definitely wanted to be a part of my big day. But instead of just saying, "Hey, you're a bridesmaid," I actually gave them the opportunity to say yes or no because I know it's a big expense, especially traveling. We had our wedding, like I said, in the Bahamas, and majority of the friends that I wanted to be in the wedding lived here. So I said, "Hey, this is the breakdown of what I think everything is going to cost." I put everything together ahead of time and I said, if this is not feasible for you, I understand. I will not be mad at you. Like, just let me know ahead of time if this is okay. So for me, that took away a lot of, I would say, stress because everyone knew ahead of time what they were getting into. And at any point along the way, I gave people the option to, say yes or no, or if this is not feasible, just let me know. So that is a tip I would definitely recommend putting together just an estimate of what you expect the bridal costs to be. Look at flights if you're having a destination wedding. Look up dresses or from the website that you think you would like to have your dresses selection from, just to give your bridal party an estimate of the costs that they would be spending total, so they can have idea of if this is something that they can actually afford if they say yes. But my bridal party, two of my bridesmaids are on the call. Shout out to Shanair and Sashay. Shanair is actually getting married in May in Antigua. So I'm in her wedding. Excited for that. And then my sister was my maid of honor. My cousin was also in my wedding. And then I had another cousin that was an usher. On the flip side of that, I didn't mention this previously, but I should have. I definitely would say invest in live stream, especially if you are doing a destination wedding. I had two other friends that are also on the call. Shout out to Odessa and Didi. They were unable to make it physically to my wedding, and that was completely okay. Like I said, I factored in the cost of everything. So my husband's family spread out all over. They also were unable to make it. So I did a live stream. That way, everyone would be included in the wedding. But definitely, I would say the most important thing is to make a list, give it to your bridal party. That way, they're able to decide if this is something that they can afford, if they do say yes. And that takes a lot of stress off of you because you leave the ball in their court.
No, that's good. I did the same thing. Even my maids of honor were my sister and my best friend. Like I said, my two cousins. I made the whole spreadsheet for them. I was like, hey, this is what the dress is gonna look like. This is the hairstyle. Natalie, I loved how you took into consideration your bridesmaids. Like you said, Joanna, like Joanna mentioned, wet ponytail. But because I think sometimes, like you say, when you're planning the wedding, the bridezilla tends to come out and you have this vision and you just like want everybody to fall in line. And you can get a bit selfish and not take everybody else into consideration or their pockets and stuff. So I know one of my bridesmaids time was I think like saving up to buy a house. My best friend was like still med school, and so everybody has things going on. So I think it's a good point that you mentioned to keep your friends or whomever it is that you have in your bridal party in mind, keep their pockets in mind. And if they say they can't, not to get offended by it, but understand that clearly it's reasons beyond their circumstance that they are unable to, but find a way to have them engaged in some other way. Like how you said, have someone read a scripture, have someone do something else within the wedding if you want them to be a part and they still want to be a part of that day as well. So for me, I didn't have any of my friends and I stood in their weddings, but they all came on my bachelorette. So we still were able to find time to still enjoy certain things about the season and the time together. Um, you guys have spoken about like, picking certain vendors and, negotiating and things, but I want to ask about like the wedding date. Like, how did you and your spouse, if y'all had like anything around picking the date? I remember when me and my husband were picking a date. I had picked one day. I don't know. It was just like random. I just like, looked on the calendar and I promise y'all, nothing worked out for that day. The day wasn't available. Things just kept getting in the way. And I was like, you know what? Clearly, this is not the day that we are supposed to be. And I was already on like a whole journey with like the Lord and preparing myself for marriage. And the Lord told me straight up, stop planning this wedding. Do not pick a day. You're not ready for this yet. But after that time and that period with like me and my husband just enjoying our engagement season, the day came to us and everything fell in line thereafter. So, did you have any issues picking a wedding day? How did you and your spouse come to picking your wedding date? So, Simone, I know you spoke last, but you're the first one like big on my screen. So, how did you and
Okay.
your husband pick your date?
So for our civil ceremony, we had it on our dating anniversary, which is May 4th. But for our big wedding, I immediately knew the date was going to be August 24th, 2024, because they in some way either added up to 8 or was a multiple of 8. So it was 888, which represented infinity. And that would have been our 8th year together as well. So it aligned perfectly. And that's how I chose our date.
Like we got married February 8th. Something about the number 8 as well
Yes.
was because
And
8 is also like the sign of new beginnings and everything.
yes, and
Yes.
the proposal side, actually the word love, the O was a 8. And so I just said, you know what? This is it. This is what it's supposed to be. And it aligned perfectly with the vendors and where we wanted to have the wedding. So it was perfect.
Perfect. Natalie, what about you and your husband? How did y'all pick your wedding date?
So initially I mentioned that when we first started to talk about, getting married and setting a date, we ideally had summer of this year in mind. Things being what they were, we decided to push the date up. And so, like Simone, we had a civil ceremony, which was back in July, the same weekend of my dad's birthday. My dad was going to be in town, and so we used it as an opportunity for the parents to officially meet and for us to also do the civil ceremony that weekend. So it worked out for us in that way. Afterward, we started to plan the grand celebration, right? And so, we're looking at dates, we're talking to vendors. And one thing that I'd like to just share with brides is that you really can't hold so hard and fast to a date because, circumstances come up. One of you ladies had mentioned initially that it's cheaper to have your wedding during the week. And that's so true. For me, my wedding was on Wednesday. And so you have to be mindful of some of the deals and the rates that you can get for a weekday wedding as opposed to a weekend. And also you have to be mindful of months. Some months are obviously more costly than others, just depending on different things happening during that season. So for me, I did not hold so fast to a date. When it was all said and done, we decided to have it in December because we knew that it was sort of holiday time for a lot of people. And so that was the best date for most of the family to convene. So that's how we decided there.
And what was the wedding date again?
The civil one was July 26th, and my actual wedding was December 4th.
Okay.
Yes.
Kendra, how'd y'all pick y'all day?
Well, being that I was previously married and so was he, we didn't want to clash dates. And then we looked at birthdays for the kids. And so we decided it would have either been October or November. So I was more leaning on October because I say November, you go into Thanksgiving and then Christmas. So when when we started to talk to the priest, and he was like, these are the dates that I have available. And I was like, bang, October it is. And I jot down the Saturdays first, what was available, like, what the Saturdays. And then he was like, you ever thought about a Friday wedding? I was like, Friday? And when I went to him, he was like, Friday? He's like, we got this wedding on a Monday. Let's do this. And so we decided on a Friday. A lot of family members is kind of mad that we did it on a Friday, but my husband was like, "Listen, I am marrying you and not your family. Who gonna be there? Gonna be there. Let's go."
Mm-hmm.
And so we was able to do it on a Friday, and it was a beautiful. I never thought I would have had a Friday wedding, but it was nice. It was the 100 people did not show up. Just keep that in mind. You know, being that it
Listen,
was a
even on a
Friday.
Saturday wedding, my husband
Yeah.
didn't show up, so don't feel bad.
No. Yeah. Listen, I say, listen, if you were supposed to be there, you were meant to be there. You were meant to, share that moment with us. And so it was good to have all. And like I say, when you think about having a wedding for the week, don't knock it out, because you could you could experience, and I think even having it on a Friday for me, and when I set that date, it became more stress free because it wasn't so hectic in terms of, the Saturday flow. It was easy flowing for me. Like, everyone's like, "You getting married? You ain't crying? You so happy? You ain't look scared?" I said, "No, let's go."
Well, how did you deal with people who, like, did they RSVP or didn't RSVP? I think I had like a
No,
handful of
I
people
just had it
RSVP
was
didn't come,
no,
but it wasn't that like significant of a
no.
number. So,
I had
I
an
we
entire
gave
wedding website.
Yeah, no, we didn't do that. We basically had names of, like I specifically gave my mommy. I said, okay, you have 10 friends.
mhm.
Now, all them cousins can't come. Sorry. And his mom had 10. And then we had the some friends that we wanted, family members, because I have my dad's side too.
Mhm.
So we aligned it that we have names, and we send out the digital to whomever and whoever could have come, because it was actually only the church. Keep in mind, it was only the church. We did not have a reception. We had a small reception at my mom's house, and that was for immediate family and friends, including the children. So it wasn't like a lavish, reception. We did a very small, intimate reception. So it wasn't a RSVP. No.
Yeah. Thank you, ladies.
Yeah, I can speak on the RSVP because this was a point of disappointment for me. I had a whole wedding website. The Knot is really great if you are wedding planning.
Mm.
I mainly did it because I knew my exact numbers. I couldn't go over, especially for the reception, because the tables were set up based on the number of people that I gave for the count. And I had people RSVP for the church and the reception. There were two separate links. I had the reception hidden because only select people were invited to the reception. I did not care who came to the church. You could bring your mommy, your grandma, your cousin, your children, everybody,
Yeah.
just not to the reception. Um, so I did have people RSVP and not show up, not even say congratulations, no reasoning on why they didn't come. And that really hurt because there were some people that I held really close to my heart. So, in terms of navigating that, I would say people that you think are for you, like you see people's true colors in wedding planning and preparing for marriage. So,
Were
I,
those sorry.
I don't know how else to word it, but you definitely will find out who is for you and who is not in this season.
No, and I think that is good, even just being like open with like throughout your season and paying attention to who seems to be a little off during this season. But you did mention that you had two RSVPs, one for the church and one for the reception. The
Yes.
ones that would have disappointed you, were they invited to both or were they just
No, it was just like I said, the church I did not care. It
Mhm.
was the reception because we paid for the plate and
Yeah.
meals per
Mhm.
person. So if I knew ahead of time, like there are things that came up where people honestly just could not make it. At least give me the courtesy of saying
The
something.
call.
There were
Mhm.
people that just didn't say anything and just didn't show up. And that is what hurt.
No, I get these plates expensive.
Yes.
I've
Plates could go from 40 to almost $60 a plate. And that's
Yes.
including, and that doesn't go whether your child is two. That's a $50 plate.
Regardless of age, yes.
Yeah,
Well,
regardless of age.
how did you navigate how did you navigate that? Were these people that did you have conversation? Because I know so many things are moving when it comes to wedding planning. You see that some people who were in the wedding photos, y'all ain't friends no more, or you expected someone to show up, they don't show. How did you navigate that disappointment, especially if they were friends? Are y'all still friends? Were you able to talk about it? How did you move through that?
No. I did pray on it. After my wedding, there was a few hiccups throughout the wedding, and a lot of disappointment along the way. But I really just prayed on it. I let go and I let God. I'm not the person to block. I've never blocked, but I actually blocked this person because I just couldn't understand the disrespect. I sent out reminders. I sent out even up until the week prior, like, let me know if anyone is not able to make it. I understand. Like, I was very, very open about being understanding when it came to my wedding. So that is why people not showing up just hurt a bit more. But I no, I have not spoken to the person or people. I tend to pray and leave things to God. That's what my mom always suggests, and that's what I've done. I've had peace about the situation. I just moved on from it. Um, one of the people, the one that hurt me the most, definitely, she was actually the one that was there the night when I met my husband. So
Mm.
it hurt a bit more, but
Ooh,
I
Lord,
I
that's
moved
another
on.
story for another day.
Yeah, I've moved on. I have peace now. And everyone
Yeah.
that is meant to be in my life is still in my life. I've had friends, like I
Mhm.
said, that were in America that couldn't make it, and I was completely understanding of that. The courtesy of just stating, "Hi, I can't make it, and this is why," is
Yeah.
all I ask.
Okay.
One thing,
Yeah, go ahead.
One thing I'd like to add is that if you are somebody that doesn't have a wedding planner and you are planning it by your lonesome, you have to recognize that it is a full-time job. It's There are a lot of moving parts that you have to
Yes.
manage, one being what we're talking about, RSVPs. So for me, what I found worked was that, just like Simone, I had a wedding website as well, where people could RSVP through the wedding website. There was a point in time where there was some glitches with the website, and what I decided to do was then create a WhatsApp group. So that served as an alternate means to collect RSVPs. And so, you give your introduction, you let people know, hey, there were some glitches with the website, but you feel free to send your RSVP through WhatsApp. Say whether or not you're attending, and if you're not attending, then state that as well. But you have to constantly follow up, and you have to check in order to get to a true number.
Yep.
There were people that we're also dealing with different demographics. So you have younger people who are more tech savvy and they will RSVP through the website. But you also have your older folk, people who don't know what a PC look like, and they ain't RSVPing through no website, right? So you have to be mindful of
Yes.
all of those things, and provide alternate solutions. So you have your wedding website, you create the WhatsApp chat, but you're also doing checks and balances. And so for me, I was able to get to a true number. My number was 75 total guests, and I had about 73 after the fact. So it is a
Mhm.
process that you have to manage, and also give people grace as well.
Mhm.
Yes.
Thank you, ladies. Just like one more question dealing with, the engagement season, the planning, and then we're gonna get into the fun stuff, like the wedding day. But for you, I want you to give me a number, and then I want you to tell me how long. First of all, tell me how long your engagement season was from getting proposed to the actual wedding day, and
Oh,
like on
that's
a
juicy.
scale of 1 to 10, like how stressful was your like engagement season, or it could not have been stressful at all. I know for me, it was stressful. Me and my mom stopped talking for like 6 months while we were planning. Like, y'all, I wouldn't do it again. I can't do it again. But and me and my husband, I said we had a year, 13 months was the time he proposed, and then we got married. He proposed in January, and then we got married the following February. So how long was your engagement? Was it stressful? What was like the thing that was the stressor if you did have a stressful engagement season?
I guess I'll go.
Yeah.
Um, so my wedding season was a whirlwind. It really went quickly. So I met my husband online in April, the second week of April, and God, I hope I get my dates correct. So week in April, we met. We're dating, we're talking. We got engaged a mere 3 months after in July. Um, and the civil union was within the same week. So that happened. And afterward, we started to plan the wedding. So really everything happened in less than a year. That's engagement planning to now the full wedding. So it really was a whirlwind for me.
Thank you. I just want to put a point there to anybody who is, you're still waiting on your Prince Charming. Listen, when the Lord says go, he says go. Like, so don't think, oh, I did
Thank you.
and in my like mid-30s, mid-40s, I'm on my like I've been divorced. Listen, when the Lord says go, he go, it will happen like this. And I'm saying that because
Yes.
my cousin, we got married. Funny, the same year. I got married February. She got married in May. She randomly told me on a Monday they were going to the JP Thursday. And I was like, okay.
Mhm.
Okay, say less. Like, do not think that you've been waiting all this time because guess what? When you were ready and your husband, give God time to finish your husband, man. Give him time to
Mm-hmm.
finish
To
your husband
heal. Mm-hmm.
and as well as heal you and make you complete and whole as well. And
Yeah.
the two of y'all you will blink and y'all could be married and living y'all best life. So don't worry about the timeline. So
Yeah.
love that. Simone, what about you?
So from engagement to big wedding, because I don't calculate the civil wedding, it was 1 year and 12 days. We got married in August and engaged in August. Um, and I think what was the second part of the question? Is it
Was it
stressors? The
was it a
stressors.
stressful
Oh,
season or did you enjoy your engagement season?
despite working 2 jobs and planning everything myself, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I did have, like I said, a few stresses along the way. One was when I went home. So I actually went home twice prior to the wedding. Once was in October for my mom's birthday, and that's when I got to actually see the venue because she had her birthday party there and decide on if I wanted that to be my venue as well. And her birthday party was actually 150 people. So it gave me a good estimate of the size and space that I was working with. And then I went home again the next Easter to take my wedding dress and actually visit my vendors. And this is where the stress came in. So I won't name the cake vendor, but we had communications on WhatsApp. I sent a photo of what I wanted. I sent the style of cake and the flavor. They gave me quotes. And so I said, okay, they told me this is the amount I needed for a deposit. I said, well, I live abroad. I will be in Nassau on this date. I'm going to come in. They said, okay. So I went into the store. When I got there, they looked at me like a deer in headlights. Who are you? What are you talking about? And I said, this is the WhatsApp chat, pulling up my receipts. And they're like, oh, well, the price we quoted you was not for fondant icing. It was for regular icing. And I'm like, well, the photo I sent was what I wanted. So I thought you would have quoted me based on the photo that I sent. Um, Long story short, they got very rude. They said, hey, we have customers. If you want to make an appointment, you can call us and come back. And I mean, that was a true indication of I will not be working with you and I will take my business elsewhere. So I highly, highly, highly recommend not just communicating on WhatsApp, but if you have the ability to actually go to consultations in person and meet and interact with the actual vendors that you will be using, please do that because sometimes a friendly text is not a friendly text. When you see them in person, the attitudes are a whole lot different. So that was a point of stress. Another point was when I was trying to book my hair and my MC. The person that I really, really wanted to do my hair was out of town that weekend, and I just could not find another person. Thankfully, I did in the end, but she was also a stressor. But I just will not speak on that. And then my MC, someone that I really wanted, was also flying out of town, but my MC ended up being amazing. He was Ozzy the entertainer, and he actually gave me a discount without me even asking. So I have to shout him out. But yeah, with the stresses, I will say it can be smooth sailing, but you definitely have to meet with your vendors, be clear on your vision, and let them know ahead of time exactly what you're looking for, especially like when it comes to the makeup and the hair vendors. If I could go back and do a consultation and, sit down and actually do a trial for my wedding hairstyle prior to the day, I would have, because I did not get the exact style that I wanted. But again, it's learnings that you take on with you. And if that's a tip that I could give to someone else, I would suggest doing that.
I did want to stop on the vendors, but I just wanted to, we're gonna pivot back to the vendors. Just wanted to finish like the engagement and then we get back to the
Oh
vendors.
yeah,
I have a
sorry.
question. No, that's fine. I thank you for bringing, because you said that was the stressor during
Yes,
with, and it's, and
100%.
it's good to know about that. But I just wanted to make space for that. So I just wanted let Kendra just give her a little tip and then we'll pivot back
In
to.
terms of what, vendors?
No, I want you to let us know how long your engagement season
Oh,
is, and
okay.
did you enjoy
So,
it or was it stressful?
well, I met him in, that's 2019. So we officially started dating in, I have dates written down because I can't remember. So we started in January 15th, that'll be 2022. So it took the 2 years of healing. And then he proposed on the February 17th, 2024. So and then we got married in October 11th, that's 2020. So that was like 9 months. So it was quick. He didn't want to wait no longer. That was it. No,
But no, he already did.
no.
I don't
He
want
said
a
he
long
did,
engagement.
he healed. He's like, okay, let's go. Yeah,
Perfect.
yeah.
I'm happy for you for that. So yeah, so let's pivot back to vendors very quickly because I do want to honor time. But how did you better? Because there's a lot, like we could legit have like an entire conversation about vendors when it comes to wedding planning. But what would you say would be like your top two tips when it comes to dealing with dealing with vendors or picking them? I know for me, I made sure I have two of everything. I had two cake people, I had two makeup artists, I had two hair, just in case something didn't come through and you didn't want to be left
Mm.
last minute. That's just how I operate in everyday life. I have two nail techs. I just always good to have a backup when it comes to vendors, as well as like keeping receipts. As Simone would have mentioned, she had the WhatsApp Pay. I told you guys what I want, because sometimes these vendors do mess up or they forget and then they don't want to compensate you or reimburse you their for their mistake, because that was something that also happened to me with with my decor. Some of the flowers was missing or they didn't make it from one venue to the next, and we actually had photos and proof that hey, this entire arrangement was missing, and we're able to sit down, have a conversation with them afterwards, and they were gracious and reimbursed us the money and for the inconvenience essentially. So give us two, because it's just like one on our time. Give us two tips when it comes to either picking a vendor, dealing with vendors, or ensuring that you have your receipts and you're covered. Um, so yeah, so Natalie, I'll let you go first.
So my top two pieces of advice would be: scale does not make you the ideal person for the job. And also you have got to take your hands off of the process in a particular way. So as far as skill set, this is something that I experience even in my everyday life. I have dealt with um, hairstylists who have ghosted me. I have dealt with people who showed up late to consults, et cetera, et cetera. And their saving grace for them is, oh, I'm good at what I do. And they think that that is enough. But you have got to know that that attitude is going to carry throughout the experience, and it's not worth it, especially with your wedding. This is your day. You are trying to mitigate stresses as much as possible. And so I know for a lot of us women, we want to stick closely to the budget, and for some of us we sacrifice or we skimp on service. For me, that's a big deal. I want to be able to refer you to others even after the event is done. I want to be able to speak good about you. And so don't sacrifice or skimp on service just because somebody is seemingly skilled. Anthony O'Neill, he's on YouTube. He's in the personal finance arena. I remember him sharing a story about how he wanted to have a pool done in his backyard. And so he had two options: go with the person that was very expensive and it would take months to complete, or go with somebody who was offering him a cheaper alternative and doing it in a fraction of the time. And of course, he went with the cheaper person. His thing was he wanted to support the Black community, and he also wanted his pool up. Summertime was coming. I want to have my pool ready. And so what ended up happening, as we suspect, is that he had to call somebody in midway to complete the job and really get it up to par. And he ended up pumping more money than he initially should have. And so long story short, don't skimp. Don't skimp. I see people do it all the time. It's not worth it. Um, and so yeah, so that would be my top advice. Like I said, I've dealt with people that's really made the process very frustrating for me, but you have to know when to walk away, because there are other people that are gifted. They're just as talented, and they're ready and they're willing to serve you. So that's something to keep in mind.
No, thank you for that, because it also makes the point, ladies, that even if one of your friends or someone you know used a vendor and they referred them, they may not necessarily be the best fit for you. And it's okay if you don't use the photographer that this person is using, or
Hi.
this photographer
Okay, I love you.
that is popular at the time, or this MC that's popular at the time. Or referrals are good, but feel free, like, go meet these people yourselves, go talk to them yourselves, and have a conversation, like Simone said, face to face, because you can get a feel if they will be the good fit for your day. So Kendra, how about you let us know, like, your top two when it comes to dealing with picking and dealing with vendors?
Well, dealing with vendors, I
I know you
had,
mentioned that your mom did, like, you
yeah,
like
well, I would
hands
say
on,
this.
but
I actually was in the digital way, like Simone said. But I wanted it digital, and I also wanted a few invitations, to be handed to, our older family members. But that didn't go as well. I'm not going to call the company's name, but I felt like because I wasn't spending a certain amount of money, I got like almost like shut down. And so the over the tax, it got words wasn't communicated, I guess, in a form of professionalism.
yeah.
And so, that's when I decided to walk away. And I was like, baby girl, you good at doing it with flyers and stuff you'll be doing. So we can do this. And that's why, I chose my daughter. I wanted a different look, but it came out fine. And so I think even with communicating with whomever you're going to decide to do programs, flowers, you have to be hands-on. You have to be, because I feel like even like when you text, texting could be miscommunicated.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you say A and they saying B and it ain't aligning, it's gonna cause a riff-raff. And so I would say the communication. Try to have more face-to-face conversations with the vendors and set up little meetings. That'll be for me. And that's why I choose to just try to do what I could do, me and my daughter and my mom in that area. So yeah, that'll be for me, my 5 cents.
Thank you. No, those are good. Face to face, meet these people.
Yeah.
What about you? I know you start
Well,
briefly
my
started
first
to
point, I did state one
yeah.
already, but my second one, in addition to the receipts, not just like for proof of, hey, this is this, but in terms of pricing, I've had two of my vendors try and, scam my bridal party and say, hey, because I was specifically told by one vendor, this pricing list is sent to you. And I was not supposed to share that. And I'm like, why am I not sharing this if they are paying for it? I need to tell them how much the service is going to cost them. That makes no sense. So I told them exactly how much the cost would be. Um, when my bridal party went and got the service done, they were upcharged $10. And the person had a flyer. The flyer actually had the pricing on there. So I definitely think you should keep receipts and show receipts. Show the pricing, show the quotes that you were given. Unfortunately, I was not there when the service was done, so I couldn't really do anything. But people try to swindle you, so definitely have that your receipts ready and at your aim. Because I had the same thing with another vendor. I had a quote, I paid my deposit, and they gave me a discount, and then at the end of the day they called and were like, hey, you still owe X amount of dollars. And I'm like, but I had a discount, I paid a deposit, and I paid the remaining balance of X amount, which adds up to the quote I was given. Then because I was able to locate my receipts, they were like, oh, okay, yeah, you're right. So definitely people, like Kendra said it earlier, they hear wedding, they hear that it's a wedding happening and they try and swindle you or try and get extra funds out of you. But if you're given a quote, please save it in a folder. I had a folder, a file. I saved everything in there. And if there was any discrepancies, I was able to pull and show my receipts.
Most times now they require, like you say, a deposit, and
I
most
had to
of
pay
them
for I
involve
had to pay
fine.
for my cake in full prior to even the booking wasn't even confirmed. I had,
And
but
most times, well, you know, in
yeah.
Nassau now, everything is done over banking. So them screenshot,
Hmm.
save.
So keep your receipts, ladies.
Oh
Receipt,
yeah.
Oh
receipt,
yeah.
receipts. And also be transparent, like she said. Like if you know that you're gonna give a price to your bridal party and they try to upsell or literally that's happened to a friend of mine. I think her dad went to look for a price, and simply because of his name, they like
Yeah.
sold him. And then when my actual friend went, but she went with like a different last name, it was starkly different, the prices when it comes to wedding
It's
event.
sad, but it's true.
So
Yeah.
be vigilant when you are going to these vendors and
Wise.
their prices. And if you see they have a flyer somewhere, feel free to screenshot the flyer at the time and take it to them. Be like, hey, your website says this.
Mhm.
This is
Yeah.
what you publicly put out here for the consumers. Why
Yeah.
are you changing your price? And if that vendor is giving you difficulty, like I tell y'all, there are a dime a dozen. There are many cake makers. There are many MCs. There are many DJs. Do not feel so trapped that you have to go with a particular vendor.
Walk around.
Shop around for the one that feels
Yeah.
best to you and
Yeah.
fits
What suits you?
suits you, suits your budget, and suits your overall vision for your wedding day. So I think we got over the heavy stuff. So let's jump into the actual wedding day that I mean some women are dream about, they're excited about. And so, but I know the day of is just so busy, and you don't believe that it's literally just 8 hours. It's a one working shift.
Yeah.
It's a 9 to 5. But what would some of your morning tips be like the day of your wedding? Like what would you want to remind women to do on their wedding day? Because it's a lot of emotions, a lot of moving, a lot of things. Like I know for me, ladies eat breakfast, take
I was
snacks.
going to say that.
I forgot to eat dinner. It went left after that. It was a great
Mhm.
time, but I eat. Find a time, run away with your husband at the eat. Eat, ladies,
Yeah.
eat. I know you want to fit in the dress, eat. Take snacks.
Yeah.
That I cannot
Even if it's cereal or oatmeal, eat something.
have a good breakfast. Eat at your
Yeah.
reception because we had a cocktail reception, so it was just like grab as you
Yeah,
go.
both.
So, but just make sure that you eat. But Simone, tell
Yeah.
us, I wanna, like I said, such honoring time. So what would like your
Yes.
three top morning or day of wedding tips be?
Definitely carve out space for yourself. My wedding was at 2 p.m., so I think my makeup and hair started around 6:30 or 7. I was up at 5. So I was praying, I was listening to worship music. It was just me, my sister, and my little nephew at the time. He was about 6 months. So I spent a lot of time just loving on him, staring out the window, and just
Mm.
absorbing the day because I knew that it would go by so fast. So a tip I would definitely give brides is like wake up early, even if I know you have nerves and anxiety, so probably you'll be awake anyway. So I was up early and I would just say spend some time with God, take some time for yourself to breathe and just relax and enjoy the moment. Yeah, that's what I would suggest. I can't think of anything else. Aside from yeah, eating is very important. I had a whole person set up just to specifically buy food and bring it so my bridal party can have breakfast and we'll be well fed and taken care of for to prep for the day.
Great. Kendra, what would be if you have one or three of your morning of day of wedding tips?
Well, like I said, for me, we had like a gospel music jam. So me and the girls, we listen to music to calm us. Again, my mommy make breakfast, so we was able to have breakfast. Um, and I mean, for me, I was calm. I thought I was gonna be, more stressed, but I was really, really calm. So a lot of things I made sure was done prior, so I wouldn't have the day off. Oh, you do this, you do that. I gotta do this. Y'all remember to bring this? So I was relaxed. So I would say just, breathe in and just take in the moments.
Mhm.
Natalie, what about you? What would be some of your what like it doesn't have to just be one, two, three. How many tips did you feel for brides on their wedding day?
Just like Kendra, for me, I had to abandon the wedding planner mode and just take in the day. And not only taking the day, but also, again, you have to trust the people that you put in place to assist you. So if it is you have a day of coordinator, you need to trust that she has a timeline, which you guys would have spoken about before anyway. So you have to trust that she's sticking to the timeline and making sure that things are getting done. And another person for me was my maid of honor, who acted as a liaison with staff members there, making sure that I had the things that I needed and just keeping the group organized. If there were little fires that happened, I didn't know about it because I was just focused on the day and getting my mind right for the moment. I did not allow myself to be overwhelmed by anything. I totally relied on my day of coordinator and also my maid of honor, which was a blessing in and of itself. So definitely trusting the process, and definitely just keeping a calm and quiet demeanor so that the day flows as smoothly as possible.
You ladies. So it seems like we have a consensus of the day of ladies. Just enjoy the day. Just remain
Mhm.
calm. Start the day off with the Lord. Start the day off in His presence, in finding that peace throughout the day, and the rest will flow. On top of eating, I would say another point for me that I think we should remember just of the day of. I know there are a lot of like photographers taking photos or people taking photos, but one thing for me was my family, both my husband's entire, like all of the first cousins and aunts. We took like a big family photo together, and we also did that for my side of the family. And I'm not realizing until this year how important those two photos are because it's 5 years later, and we've lost so far three on my side that were in that photo and two on my husband's side. And so just taking moments to, I know it's sometimes very stressful and it consuming taking photos with everybody, but you're not gonna regret taking photos with with people, those who were
Mm-mm.
there and celebrating with you, because you're gonna look back on those photos, you're gonna have the memories. And so, as tiring as it may be, carve some time out. Or I realized recently now at weddings that I've attended, just like have a QR code or a Google Drive that they tell everybody, hey, if you took photos on your phone, feel free to upload to our just open drive. And so I think it also helps take the stress off of the husband and the bride and the groom of the day, and everybody could send in their candid photos. So if that's something that you may be interested in, so that your photographer could focus on the shots that you want him to handle and let your friends and family capture the candid moments and videos for you, that would be a great, find that to be a very helpful and great option that more people are doing now, and helps you collect a larger gallery than the ones you have to pay for and wait months for
Definitely. Yeah.
from the
Mm-hmm.
photographer. Okay, another question pertaining to the wedding day. Were there any hiccups that you guys were aware of that you found out about afterwards, and how did you deal with those hiccups? Because, like, I know for me, certain things I didn't even know were a problem, because, like, my mom and Sammy, they like swooped in, and I didn't even know things went left, and they weren't even supposed to. But I found out,
Mm-hmm.
but was able to have conversations with the vendors to rectify anything that had happened. So, were there any hiccups, and of any of those hiccups, would you tell ladies, hey, you know what? Don't worry about these things. Like, one of my friends told me, girl, don't worry about the runnel. Like, you ain't even gonna remember what that runnel looked like. It is under your feet. Like, so certain, but because hers like bunched up while she was
Mm-mm.
walking down the aisle, she was like, yeah, don't worry about the runner. So what are some things that may have been hiccups on your day, and how did you deal with those, or how was the matter resolved? So, Simone, you were big on my screen right now. So I'm gonna
I had two hiccups. So the first one was one of my cousins caught a flat tire on her way to getting her makeup done. So she ended up having to pivot to go to her sister. So her sister was getting her makeup done with my makeup artist. I did have two. And then the one that caught the flat tire, she had to drive to another location. So she dropped off her sister, who, might I add, has two children that were also in my wedding. They were flower girls. Dropped her off to get her makeup done because I think her makeup was second. So because of that, she was not able to get her daughters dressed and, get their hair ready in time. To add, she was an usher in my wedding. So she was supposed to be to the church an hour prior to the wedding start. However, due to all of the delays and her having to wait on her sister to bring the car back to the hotel, the kids wanting food, all of that, she ended up being 30 minutes late to the church. So even later than the start time. So I stressed about that a little bit. But I will say it worked out because the second hiccup was my live stream. They didn't do a test run at the church, and I think the steel in the walls posed an issue. So the service was supposed to start at 2. They didn't get the live stream up and running until about 2:30. So like I said, it all worked out in the end, but those stressors definitely had me anxious. Thankfully, my dad, he was very chill. He's like, there's nothing you can do about it. So think of yourself like in that situation, there's physically nothing that you can do. Stressing only adds a negative component. So the best thing to do is just try as best as possible to remain calm and just let things flow as they will. After that, the service started. I mean, the live stream still was not 100%. I didn't find that out until after, thankfully. Um, but at the end of the day will end and things will go on. So just
Yeah.
take it as it is in stride and just go with the flow. That would be my
Mm.
advice.
Perfect. So, ladies, just on the day up, learn to pivot
Yes.
and keep
Yeah.
it. Don't stress, don't stop, because the day still has to go on. There are people that are still on timelines, and some of these photographers and vendors, they very strict with their 2 hours, 4 hours, and so you don't want to
Yeah.
lose
Most
the
definitely.
time that you need. And also, if you are doing live streaming or anything technical, ensure that they, like you said, ensure that they do a test run prior to the day so that you have enough time to fix and don't let them be like, oh, we know what we're doing. We've already just for yours to, for that, you know that, hey,
Yes.
I know you've done this amount a lot of times. However, for my safe, like for my mental well-being
Yes.
and the money
Even
that
if it's just
I'm
at the
giving you,
rehearsal prior
I
when
just
you're
gonna go
there,
say, do
that
that at the rehearsal.
yes,
Yeah,
yes, that is
yeah.
something I definitely wish I had done.
exactly. So live
No,
streaming,
we
let
did
them.
that. We did that at the rehearsal. Yeah, with the
Yes.
audio at church. We did
Yes.
that. Yeah, we did that definitely because you don't know with audio could the internet could go down.
Oh
All those
yeah.
things you have to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Kendra, what about you? Were there any hiccups on the day of, and how were you able to resolve them?
I
Kendra?
think she's frozen.
Yes. Okay, hopefully she gets unfroze. So in the time, Natalie, you want to let us know, were there any hiccups on your day?
There was certainly a major hiccup on my day. So picture it, Sicily. Just kidding. So makeup is done, hair is done, and of course you got to take your getting ready photos. So we're looking around, we're like, where's the photographer? And my day of walks in the room and she lets me know that the photographer forgot that he had a booking. Mind you, this is somebody that's contracted, he's has been contracted with the venue, so he's a part of the package deal in terms of the photography services. So he forgot. So we did not take getting ready photos. Sorry?
What you mean? I'm sorry.
Right, right. So we did not get to take the getting ready photos. And at this point, everybody is now in the main hall getting ready to walk out. So
Mhm.
y'all know my pressure on me, right? I was just pacing back and forth, like, what are we gonna do? We had to stave off like people coming to the entrance. The ceremony was delayed by at least half an hour, and we decided to walk out anyway. She gets on a call with the photographer and he lets us know he's such and such a place, he'll be there. So it's just a matter of waiting until he gets to the venue, right? So we proceed with the ceremony. Pastor is praying over us. We're in the introduction stage, and my eyes are closed. Both of our eyes are closed, and next thing you know, I'm hearing click, 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 and I look up and I was like, right. So you finally made it. Nevertheless, he made it. We got our photos and the day went on. But yes, that was a major hiccup for us. He did redeem himself by offering us the photo album free of charge. We also were able to get a 16 by 20 large portrait. And he also added a family photo shoot for future use. So he did, he redeemed himself.
Well, I'm glad that he was able to, because what
Yeah.
you mean you forgot?
Right.
Like that
Right.
is that is
I lost my
crazy.
mind.
What?
Yes.
However,
Yes.
like you said, there are certain things you cannot control. Because girl, I'd have been like, "Hey, I need a friend. I need your phone for this."
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pivot. That I think that's the main thing. Like when hiccups happen, you just have to pivot. Even my wedding day, we were walking out the door, and I had no flowers in my hand. My bouquet wasn't there. None of my bridesmaids.
Wow.
Zemi was my coordinator. Zemi was like, "Girl, I will go to the food store and buy flowers out of the food store, and you will have these flowers.
Right.
Get to the church. Gotta pivot. Just gotta
Yeah.
find a way
Yeah.
to pivot and move with it." So thank you, ladies. So now, when it comes to the honeymoon, did you go on a honeymoon? Where did you go? And what was the planning around that? So for my husband and I, we went to Costa Rica, and my husband, that was on him. I just had to pick the place. I got to plan the events, but the honeymoon was on him. So, did you have one? Where did you go, and how was that experience for the two of you?
I
So
go, oh, go ahead.
mm, you go ahead.
Okay. For us, we were gonna have a gifted honeymoon cruise. However, we both used up most of our vacation. Like I said, I traveled back and forth a few times, and I know I didn't want to do a honeymoon right away. And had we accepted that offer from the family member, we would have had to fly to, I think, Rome, and the cruise didn't start until a week after our wedding. So that would be a week unpaid, and then now another week because the cruise was a week long, again unpaid, and it wasn't feasible. We thought it would be too stressful, and it just didn't make sense. So we postponed that. We wanted to do a really, and my husband wasn't really on board with the cruise. He doesn't think a cruise is a honeymoon destination. I disagree, but nonetheless, we wanted to be on the same page. So we agreed on Thailand. The second hiccup there was we both have Caribbean passports. We're not Canadian citizens. So we would have to get multiple visas. So we decided to put the honeymoon on hold just for now. We did a few family trips. So January, we went to the DR to visit his family. So I met his grandma for the first time. And then February, we went home to the Bahamas again for my nephew's first birthday and my sister's birthday. And then in May, I will be in Antigua for the first time. That's where he grew up and was raised. So I'll meet all of his friends and I'll actually meet his dad for the first time as well. So we opted more for like family trips, more meaningful trips. And then once we get our passports and get Canadian citizenship, we'll do our big extravagant honeymoon to Thailand.
Listen, you got to prioritize and do what is best for you. I know some of my friends, they didn't go on honeymoon right away because either they were finishing building a house or they were working on like their businesses. But if they had it 1 year, 2 years later, it was as if it was the day after their wedding. So don't
I
feel
did have a lot of people say it's better to do it not right after because you're so stressed and you're just coming off of that wedding high. It
Yeah,
just blends into one. So
right.
that was a suggestion that I did have from a few people. So if I can put that out there, I would say that is
no rush to do
okay.
it right away.
Yeah.
After, take some time if you want to save up some more money so that you don't feel like stressed with like finances about
Yeah.
paying for a wedding and now you're planning a trip. Take the time and have the honeymoon. Like I said, it don't matter when y'all go. You treat it as a honeymoon
Yes.
regardless. Okay.
Yes.
Natalie, what about you?
So we did something fun. We did pick a wheel, and for those of you who don't know, there's a virtual pick a wheel where you lump. So we had a handful of places that each of us wanted to go, and we pulled those together and we spun the wheel, and it landed on New Mexico, which was one of my options. Now, granted, we never made it to New Mexico for just different reasons. One of them being both of us had recently started new jobs. And so we knew that we just did not have the time. And so we decided to do something locally. We're both in Florida. And so we just took a drive down to Orlando, planned a few activities, and we decided to do theme parks. So we did Disney World, which was my first time, and I loved it. I was like a kid. It was, and it's so different. I would imagine anyway, taking the kids as opposed to you guys doing it alone. So it really was special for me. So yeah, Disney World and Legoland was my spot. And of course, we're hoping to do much more as time permits.
I mean, that sounds like a fun honeymoon
Mm.
regardless.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
It's gonna be a
It
big
was fun.
weekend.
It was great.
Okay, Kendra, welcome back. Sorry that we
I'm
lost you
right.
for a minute.
We just talking about internet and mine, and it dropped.
But no, we had pivot to like to your honeymoon. If you went on one, how did you and your husband pick like where y'all went, or if there's something, if y'all haven't went on one, but you have something in the works of the plan, how does that work?
We didn't do a honeymoon, but
Okay.
we do have something planned for our first anniversary. It's either between a cruise or a destination, not Caribbean, out
Mm.
of the box. So we still decide more so probably it'll be a cruise because we want to incorporate. We still have two 14-year-olds and a 7, so we may do the cruise to incorporate them. So yeah.
All right, so thank you for that. So, ladies, if you were like looking for your honeymoon, one, it's okay to not do it right away. Two, have it as an anniversary trip if
Yeah.
time or funds is not available at the time. And if you have kids and you want other people involved, like your honeymoon is what it is that you want it to be. If you want kids involved, if you don't want them involved, but like you said, make it your own between you. The most important thing is you and your spouse and your family is all together. So I think we are just
If I
about at
could
time.
give a recommendation.
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
So for me and my husband, we don't have a house. We live in an apartment. So we have literally everything that we need. We didn't want to do a wedding registry in terms of like buying items until we get home. So we did a honeymoon fund. So I would recommend that to anyone that's looking to fund your honeymoon or just a monetary fund in general because it can go towards a house, anything that you guys need or desire. It can help with expenses to cover the wedding. So that would be my tip recommendation in regards to a honeymoon fund.
Yes, I forgot all about. I do have a few friends. They had houses, and so for them it was you could pour into our honeymoon, and so they already picked a place, and so they were like, oh, you could buy us like a dinner at this restaurant and things like that. You could help create the experience for have your friends and family create the experience for you and your husband. And so, like I said, you make it whatever it is that you and your spouse want it to be, because
Mhm.
everything is changing now. Weddings look completely different than they did back in our parents' time, but I'm loving that everybody it seems to be more they're doing more intimate things. They're not having the big grandiose things trying to show off for other people. Everybody is bringing it back home, bringing it back to friends, close family, God, having God involved in every aspect of it, which I think you should always do. Have him in planning, have him in the engagement season, have consult him with picking the vendors, everything. Keep God involved and at the center of
Mhm.
everything when planning. And then once you walk down the aisle in your union going forward. So, ladies, I want to thank each and every one of you this evening for joining with us, for sharing your wisdom with our future wives that are on the call. We know that you guys have poured so much into each of us tonight. So, just before we close out, if anybody has just like one last comment or piece of advice that you want to share before we close out. Simone, you're on my screen the biggest right now. So I'm gonna ask you first.
Okay. This isn't advice, but this is like one of the questions we didn't get to that I really wanted to. And it was about traditions. If you did or you didn't have, you kept traditions or you didn't. For me, I didn't do the blusher veil covering your face because I didn't want that. But a tradition that I really love that my husband and I did, we brought sand from Antigua and then sand from the Bahamas, and we combined it to symbolize our union. So, my closing thoughts and advice to anyone, like I said, definitely plan your budget. Start with your most large expenses first, and then scale from there. Um, it's okay to cut in some areas and, you know, just keep God at the center. That is my biggest advice. Keep God at the center in planning with you and your partner. Because, like I said, there are hiccups, there are disappointments. There's a lot of things that will be thrown at you along the wedding journey and the wedding planning process. But just stay grounded in your why and keep God first, and that will be your guide.
Thank you, Natalie.
I don't think we got to this question as well, which was, were there any conversations we wished we had during the engagement phase? And to that, I would say you have your whole lives, right? Um, it's the ceremony happens and then life continues. And so you have to treat it as a journey. You have to invite God, like you said, Christina, at every juncture. That's an engagement, that's dating, that's throughout. I know a lot of brides, even after the wedding, newlyweds, I know for me, my husband, very early on, um, things started to transpire, arguments, you're still getting to know one another. And so questions come up. Did I ask the right questions during my engagement season? Did I hear God correctly? That's my favorite one. And so what I really want brides to be, and even brides on the call now, is that you heard him correctly. You made the right choice. And it's exactly where the enemy wants to keep you, in a state of confusion and doubt, so that you're not walking forward in purpose. And so I think that's important for the brides to hear tonight, is that once you make that choice and you're in covenant before God, you just continue moving forward. You heard correctly and you made the right choice.
Thank you, Natalie. Kendra?
Well, mine was be be honest and communicate. I would say this, finances is one of the top in divorce. And so these are the hard conversations you have to have early,
Mhm.
in terms of, your future. So that would be my advice. You have the hard conversation, have it early. That'll be for me.
Perfect. So, ladies, thank each and every one of you so much. Each and all of
Christina,
your.
one before we
Go
go,
ahead.
I think there's a question in the chat for both of us who did the civil ceremony.
Oh, yes.
Mhm.
Um, okay, so for those who did civil wedding, do you feel like it took away from the big wedding, or was there still a surprise element?
I can go first. Like I said, with our civil wedding, I mean, my husband's mom did not even know that we were married prior to our big wedding. That was my mom's biggest fear. She thought that it would take away from the day. So we did keep it close knit. There were only a handful of people, mainly our witnesses, that knew of the civil ceremony. So I would say no, it didn't take away. I definitely still had all of the nerves and all of the feels on my big day. So no, for me it didn't. And if you feel like it will, definitely just keep it close knit between you and one or two people that you have there on the day of. And after your big day, if you want to reveal and share that information, you can. But it really comes down to preference.
Natalie?
Yes, I concur with Simone. It did not take away that sense of special from me. I think that they were both equally special in their own right. The civil, it was something between my husband and our immediate family that we could share together, that we could make it official before the courts, and we knew we would celebrate before family and friends after the fact. Both times were special, both times were considered and carefully planned. So no, it did not take away from me.
Pascal, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I hope that they were able to answer this for you, if this is something that you are leaning more towards. At the end of the day, it's your day. And so it's whatever you and your spouse want to do and are looking to do. Nobody else needs to have a say, in it. Oh, so congratulations, and we're all praying. Everybody, we gotta pray for
Congratulations.
Pascal. So congratulations on your engagement.
Congratulations. I will
Congratulations.
say, I actually enjoyed my civil ceremony more. It was just so much more peaceful. You don't have the stress. So if you do it before the big day, you still have the nerves, you still have the feels, but at least you know, like, the marriage is sealed. Any
Yeah,
mistakes or hiccups you have on the big day, it's fine.
yeah. Like my family is saying no back keys.
Yeah.
Agree.
And then you have a few months to just enjoy you and your spouse as a union. You don't have the
Mhm.
outside world and influence people telling you, oh, do this, do that, do that.
Yeah,
You're already married. You just don't know.
yeah. The less people to know about what you're doing
The
is
better.
better.
Oh,
Mm,
yes.
way better.
Yeah.
So,
So
you
keep
have
it
your top
private.
five and yeah.
Yeah, keep it as private as you want. My friends, I had
Mhm.
a no cell phone policy, so we had people even after asked, y'all got married? Yes. Oh, but nobody posted because my friends and family love us and respected
Respected your
our wishes.
decision.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you just do whatever is best for you.
Mhm.
Yes, and honor the Lord first, and He will direct everything. So, ladies, Simone, Kendra, Natalie, we want to thank you so much on behalf of her season for taking the time out to pour into the ladies who are on the live as well, who'll be watching the replay. Each of you have unique stories about, meeting your husbands and the journey. As Kendra and Natalie, y'all are a story of finding love a second time around and blending of families, Simone, blending of different cultures and showing that, love is love, no matter what it looks like. God is a redeeming father, and like, marriage is the closest relationship that we have on earth to the one that He has with us. And so I pray that God continues to bless each and every one of your unions, your families, continued growth, health, wealth, success, and that your union is a beacon of hope and light and ministers to so many others as you have tonight. So I just want to thank each and every
Amen.
one of you again for this evening.
Amen.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina.
No problem. So thank you all for who joined in tonight, and we hope that you have a great evening, and we'll see you next month for the next Her Season chat.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.